Picture this. You started talking to someone new and you're interested. And then they ask you the question. The dreaded question that no one really has an answer for. So what do you do for fun? That's when it hits you. That's when you realise you are in fact the most boring person around. You have no hobbies at all. This is where I come in. Hi, I'm Possibly Bobby, and I'm here to help you get some hobbies with this new series, Possibly Bobby's Possible Hobbies. And today we're celebrating the first episode with a two-parter where we're going to be building and assembling this. I say! Yeah, so I went down to Hobbycraft and picked up one of these. This came in a model set which came with everything you need. And spoiler alert, it doesn't come with everything you need. You're going to need a kit. Well, at least for this episode, you're going to need a kit and some of this extra thin poly cement. It comes in the same aisle as the kit. You will need, also you're going to need some tweezers as well. These will all be useful. We don't need to worry about painting just yet because painting is going to be in the next video and I'll go into more detail about that then. But now let's just jump into the building. Okay, so forgot to mention you're also going to need a craft knife for this, quite important, and also probably a file or some sandpaper of some kind. I should also preface this by, if you are seriously thinking about this, try not to get a Revel kit because this one was fucking awful. It was, the parts didn't fit together. There was too much excess plastic on the edge of things. Anyway, so we're assembling the kit now and we're just starting off with the cockpit. It was okay. The tweezers certainly helped with this. You're going to want some filing. There's my face there, filling the screen. You are going to want a file. I've got a rather nice set, but you know, just some sandpaper will do. So just get everything down to the size you like, make all the pieces fit together, and just glue them on. This cement, this sort of glue, it works by actually melting the plastic on both, melting any plastic it's in contact with, and then melting it together like it's a weld-based system. Basically, it's like a weld. So you do have to keep it together for a little bit. It's not the strongest glue in the world, so you do see things in this video flopping around a bit, but you know, that's just part of Airfix. Well, I'm sorry, not Airfix. This is plastic modelling as a whole. Airfix, I think, is in the similar sort of league as Revel in terms of availability. I recently did a kit from a more professional company, Tamiya, but you know, whatever. So you start off with the cockpit, trim that down nice and fat. I recommend, you'll see me do this in the video, I recommend dry fitting stuff before you actually do it. This is to ensure you know how the parts are actually going to fit together, and so you know what you're actually doing, and so you don't fuck it up when it's covered in weldy, gluey shite. Because that is how you make a model look like crap. So I'm sorry about the bad camera angle there. I didn't realise that I didn't have the foresight to think, if I put a camera on the left side of my left-handed ass, then maybe it might be quite difficult to see. But it doesn't really matter. Just take a sip of water there. So leaving that to dry, it is time to work on the other parts. The instructions for this are quite nicely spaced, so you can ready other parts while your original parts set. Because this glue, it doesn't take long to dry, but it's not instant. So as you can see, I'm having to cut an awful lot of flash off and filing and all of that. So yeah, putting the thing in, dry fitting it together without all of the cockpit assembly, and finally gluing everything in. So the advantage of gluing it in while the glue was still wet was I could move it around a bit, make sure my positioning was all correct before finally sealing it in there. Also, I recommend you have some clothes pegs handy. You'll see why those are later. So you need the clothes pegs. I just get a few now, I think. Just sort of line up all the seams that don't fit. You can file over them and fill them up with a bit of poly, and yeah, just use the clothes pegs to hold the joints together, because these parts don't fit well. So the clothes pegs are sort of needed to mold the plastic together while the glue cures. So take out everything and file off, cut off any bits of sprue is the term for that little plastic frame holding everything together. So file all of that off, cut it all off, make sure your model's looking nice before you get it together. This is something I neglected to do, really, to a degree here. But yeah, it is an important step, because otherwise you've got ugly plastic bumps coming off your model all over the place. Also recommended, just have a podcast on in the background. I'm listening to a podcast there. But you know, you do you. If you want to sit there and enjoy the raw, absolute fun of modelling, which, you know, there's a lot of solvent vapours involved. So, you know, it can get fun if you're, I don't know, your solvent tolerances are low. But so you can see I'm gluing both the inside and the outside, and that's to sort of melt the plastic and give it a nice fine layer. So we are approaching a point where my camera actually died, and I had to just charge it for a bit. But right now we're still finishing the wings. We are putting the full wing tips on because it's a Spitfire and it just looks better with the full wing tips. Even if it was more manoeuvrable at lower altitudes, I don't really care, if I'm honest. It just looks nicer. Plus it's going to be on the ground anyway. So, and we can see it doesn't fit at all. Back again with the lighting completely fucked up. We are gluing it all together, gluing it all in place, gluing the wings in place. This was after a little bit of fiddling while the camera was off, attempting to get the thing glued correctly, and then running a little bit of glue up the side. So that can sit to the side and glue while we focus on the landing gear. Now, the landing gear was hellish. It was horrible because I had to... it had these little stalks that go under the... I guess wheel pants, I think is the term. And first of all, these wheel pants were basically all flash. They were not moulded nicely at all. So you can see me gluing one of the support struts to it. And while trying to glue the second one, it just pinged off into the ether. So I disappear for a good amount of time trying to find it. But eventually just give up and glue the wheel directly to the pan, which I didn't think would look bad. And looking at it, it's not immediately noticeable, but it is horrible to attempt to glue onto the model in a down position, which is the only way of really completing this model, because it was a really weak, because the stalks have these sort of peg things, so it was a really weak way of gluing it down, and it was just not strong. You can see me here trying to actually look for the stalk, and I was trying to look for a spare here, and eventually just thought, fuck it, I'll glue it to the pan. And, well, you can see the hilarity that ensues from that. So there we go, just gluing everything together. Make sure you practice safety with your knives, kids. This is just a cheap hobby knife. You don't need to get anything expensive. Something like a Stanley knife will just be perfect. Gluing in I think the exhaust manifolds. Look at me using technical terms there. Nice and easy. Just a little bit of hammering to do with the tweezers. Hammering's the wrong word. Just persuading with the tweezers. And they actually fit quite nicely. But there's a bit of flash making them look ugly as. So I think off screen there. Yes, this is all the fun of trying to get this wheel on correctly, because God, it was horrible. Yeah, you can see it there. That one goes in absolutely fine, stays upright because it's got that little peg, and this one just does not want to behave. I've got to keep it there. Seems fine, and it falls down. Put some more glue on it, and it falls down. And put it there again, and it falls down. So the only thing I really could do was just sit there with it up against the model. It's fallen down again. Sit there with it up against the model and just hope and pray. Add more glue. Keep it there. Just keep it and keep it. And at this point, I was getting really annoyed with the model because all of these parts had come off the sprue looking like absolute dog shit. So just yeah, Revel isn't great, I guess, but finally got it glued on to some degree. There, a little bit more glue, and it's slowly falling down. So finally get the glue to cure in some way. It's still not perfect, even recording this audio, it's a bit crap, but just keeping it there, hoping for the best. This is the most arduous part of the build process. You see, the rest of it went together with relative ease, but this one was just not having it. And it was my mistake, I fucked up, but you know, still. I'm gonna blame Revel somehow, because I'm already annoyed at this model. So leaving that there, it was now time to work on the propeller. I was just dry fitting the propeller together, was I? Yes, I was. You'll notice that on real Spitfires there is a large, I guess, pylon behind the cockpit. This model doesn't have that because I lost it. Anyway, here I am gluing on the propeller, looking pretty good. Unfortunately, the propeller doesn't spin. And then gluing on the rudder there. Very nice. Way off in the distance. I'm sorry, my framing is so fucked up. But, you know, I'll try and improve that for the next video. Finally, finishing up the tail there. I think I was so bored of this model at this point, of just nothing really working exactly how I wanted it, that I just wanted to get the cockpit on. There I am, and just have done with it, and there she is. So that is the Revel Spitfire. It is not especially well made. I think it's just old tooling. Lot of flash on the model, lot of ill-fitting parts, but it looks okay. And it did come with some useful stuff, like the paint is pretty useful. And so tune in on Thursday, where I will be attempting to paint this thing. Share this with your friends, share it with your gran, and I will see you next time.